Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.
Vitalik stands up and calls Dr. Craig Wright a fraud at the Deconomy conference in Korea.
So since in Craig Wright's presentation, he argued that making the Lightning Network work is as hard as breaking a discrete block, which is absolutely false, given that for NP-hard problems, it's a widely known fact that we can make heuristic solutions that are very often almost as good in practice, which can often be done in polynomial time. And he claimed that in the context of selfish mining, gamma can be less than 0, which is an absolutely nonsensical claim that makes no sense, because gamma is the percentage of the network that is colluding with the miner, which by definition is between 0 and 1. So given that he makes so many non-sequiturs of his takes, why is this fraud allowed to speak at this conference?
Floyd Mayweather takes a blow from the SEC. Monex shares surge over 25% as the Japanese online broker says it's buying Coincheck, the Japanese crypto exchange. The market staged a rally after a bloody Easter weekend. Welcome to this week's edition of Crypto Trader, the world's first and biggest cryptocurrency investment show. Let's take a deeper look at the stories making the headlines. Ticket holders at the Deconomy conference in Korea got a little more than what they paid for this week when things got heated at a debate between Roger Ver and Samson Mao. Roger Ver took on Samson Mao and asked him how many vendors are actually using the Lightning Network. Let's take a listen.
When was the last time you made a Lightning payment?
A week ago.
A week ago? So I did more Bitcoin transactions on Bitcoin Cash today than I can count. How many shops are there that accept Lightning for payments online?
There's quite a few.
Can you name a few?
Yeah, Blockstream has a store.
Okay.
And then there's testnet stores. And I think someone else is selling art.
So I've heard two. Is there a third, or is it just two?
Yeah, I'm launching a hat store.
So there's two currently, and the third one coming, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we have direct evidence that we've stagnated Bitcoin's adoption around the world by several years because there's two merchants that now accept Lightning, and a third one where you can buy hats coming.
Lightning is not all in beta. 2 clients are in beta. A third is not yet.
So is there a third store that's live on the internet right now that I can make a Lightning transaction to buy something or engage in commerce?
So this is where we go back to the crypto Keynesian and crypto Austrian schools of thought.
Later in the conference, Vitalik jumped into the ring and he had his say about Dr. Craig Wright calling him a fraud. The battle didn't end there and it moved on to Twitter, where the two of them exchanged, well, shall we say, heated tweets all day long. The SEC is out throwing punches, and this time they're throwing punches at the founders of the same ICO that Floyd Mayweather promoted. The SEC confirmed in a statement Tuesday that it's charging 2 individuals for orchestrating a fraudulent ICO that raised over $32 million. The SEC claims that Saurabh Sharma and Robert Farkas illegally registered and sold investments through the CTR token. The pair also misled investors to believe that they were issuing a Visa and MasterCard that was able to change cryptocurrency to fiat currencies in the background. Now obviously Visa and MasterCard know nothing about this. Sharma and Farkas also recruited a whole host of celebrities to assist in promoting the ICOs, including Floyd Mayweather and DJ Khaled. The pair have been hit with huge financial penalties and are now facing criminal charges. In other positive news, the Japanese online broker Monex this week announced that it would be buying Coincheck, a cryptocurrency exchange. The news of this sent its shares spiking over 25%. Now, though neither party would talk about the price of the deal is rumored to be valued at billions of yen. And it seems that Coincheck CEO would be departing as part of the deal. Now, you may recall that Coincheck is the same exchange that got hacked for over $500 million worth of NEM earlier this year. The company declined to comment, but they did say that such breaches were probably unlikely to happen in the future. The cryptocurrency market ended its 3rd straight month of losses, with the market down almost 70% in the last 3 months. The market hit new lows over the Easter weekend, but has since then staged a recovery. Several high-profile reports have been published, with one claiming that based on the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin market capitalization is way too high and should be more realistically valued at between $22 billion and $44 billion. Yep, you heard right. That's 20% of the current market valuation. Now, many are comparing this market to the bear market of 2013 and 2014. So tonight, I have a special panel of guests, a special panel of hodlers that have been around since way before 2013 and 2014. With me in the studio, I have Ricardo Spagni, who's the lead maintainer of the Monero project. From San Francisco, I have the Bitcoin oracle, Vinny Lingham. From Korea, someone who just got off the stage, I've got Roger Ver, the CEO of Bitcoin.com. From the USA, I have John McAfee. From Vancouver, I have Tone Vase. Now, in one of our previous shows, we had 5 chartists, and all 5 chartists gave their predictions for the market. Of all the 5 chartists, Tone Vase was the only one that got it right. And our last guest is from San Francisco. I have Anthony Pompliano. He's the CEO of Full Tilt Capital. Gentlemen, good evening. Ricardo, welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
The market, been going down 70% since January. Does this remind you of the 2013, 2014 period?
It reminds me of that period. It reminds me of periods before. I think the bear market in 2014 was pretty rough because it sort of went down and then it stuck there for a long time. And a lot of people lost faith. I mean, we all lost a little bit of faith. We were like, well, maybe this is all it's going to be. It's going to be this little niche thing. There's only going to be a few of us that are going to be using it, and it'll serve those interests, and that's it. And then when it picked up a few years later, we were like, okay, it's bigger than we expected. It's bigger than we believed it could be. And I think that we might be in for a bit of a long haul now, a bit of a long bear market before it picks up again.
Now, Ricardo, that 2013, 2014 bear market, how long did it actually last?
It was like 3 years. It was a long haul. I mean, can you imagine buying Bitcoin at the end of 2013? You've paid like $1,200 a coin, and now your investment or your purchase is worth a third, a quarter of what it was worth, and you're sitting there and you're unsure what to do, and nothing happens for like 2.5 years. I mean, like, you would be disheartened. You would probably just at some point realize the loss, sell it, and exit. But if you had the strength to go, I'm actually, I'm long-term on this, I'm not going to sell, then you would have realized massive gains, like 20x 3 years later.
But we have to compare that bear market to where we are today. Now, today the technology is much more developed. We have many more applications. We don't just have Bitcoin. We've got 1,600 cryptocurrencies. We've got a whole lot of blockchains. We've been in a 3-month decline. Are you expecting this decline to continue for a year?
I'm hesitant to say yes or no because I'm not very good at figuring out charts and TA and all that. I think a lot of TA is mostly garbage and it's just guesswork. But in my opinion, we probably are we're probably not out for the count, but we're going to go down a little bit more and then hit some balance point where there's enough support for it to sit there sustainably for a long time before it picks up again. I mean, historically, we've seen the same pattern over and over again, especially with Bitcoin prices. It spikes and then it crashes, and then it crashes to a point that's above the previous all-time high. And then it spikes again and crashes again, but it's always crashing down to a point of support that's above the previous all-time high. So there's no reason why this shouldn't be similar.
But if we look at that thesis this time round, what was the last all-time high? Because Bitcoin went to $20,000, it's come back down to $7,000 and even 6.9, 6.8. Where is that last all-time high? Where is that support level that we're looking for that we don't want Bitcoin to break through?
So last all-time high was what, $1,200, and that was December 2013. So settling anywhere above that is a win. It means that we, on a macro timescale, we're still going up in value. So I would expect it, a complete thumbsuck. Again, I'm not a trader, I'm not a charter, I'm not a TA person, but complete thumbsuck, I would expect us to end up around $4,000. That seems to be a reasonably logical level.
Vinny, since you're the Bitcoin oracle, I'm going to come to you first. I think the big question for you is, are you panicking?
No, not at all. Not yet, I should say.
Vinny, how is it that Bitcoin's come from $20,000 to $7,000 and you're still smiling?
Well, I took a very conservative position on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in December. I mean, it was very clear that the market was overheating. I mean, we've seen this play out a few times, and in January as well, it was very clear that this is not a market you want to be trading in. when it's so frothy. I mean, when people on the streets are talking about it, cab drivers, everywhere you go, people talking about crypto, and they have no idea what they're talking about. That's the time to get out.
Now, Vinny, what happens next?
So what's happening right now in the markets is we're going through a series of price discovery movements where the price is going to keep adjusting downwards until it's found what is the baseline floor for at least the Bitcoin price. The risk right now to the ecosystem is that all these altcoins and ICOs, effectively what they've done is they've printed money, right? Money doesn't exist. It's highly leveraged. For every dollar that goes into an ICO, an altcoin that gets listed, it creates about 20 to 30 times the value of what that $1 is. With Bitcoin, it's roughly 5 to 7, based on some calculations we've done at Multicoin Capital, etc. So we've looked at the market and we think it's very, very over leveraged right now.
Vinny, do you think we've hit the bottom, or is there still more carnage to come?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think there's a good chance we're going to drop below 6,000 again in April, and for Bitcoin. So if that happens, I think panic sets in. Now the real key level is the low from February 6th, about 57.50. If it dips below that, there'll be carnage, because I think the floor looks to be like 4,000 at that point, where the market's going to retest a lower low. And see whether there's a floor around about 4,000, 3,000. We don't know, but that's the bottom that needs to hold. If the market holds 57.50, I think we could see a reversal in the channel and start going upwards, maybe more bullish sentiment. But until we test that level, I don't know. The other downside, by the way, is getting below 57.50 is you start getting to the point where miner profitability gets affected, and then there's issues around security to the network, etc. There's a whole bunch of other issues that compound. I think we also may see at some point, we've seen a decompression in the ICO and the altcoin market. We may get to a point where the market just rejects that and says, look, we can't trade based on Bitcoin sentiment all day long. These coins have independent projects, people working on these projects, etc. And they've got different goals and ambitions and different value prospects and propositions. So at that point, you may see what I call the decoupling, where the rest of the market just says, look, we're going to reject Bitcoin's current woes as being overvalued. There's a lot of value in some of the altcoins out there, and we're going to trade them independently and value them based upon what they're worth intrinsically and not relative to Bitcoin.
Now, Vinny, you were around in 2013 and 2014. How does this period compare to the 2013-2014 bear market?
Yeah, I tweeted in January that it feels like 2014 all over again, and it's kind of been true this year. So it does feel like 2014. I mean, look, trying to tell people late last year that, guys, this is one of the natural cycles of Bitcoin, and this is what happens every couple of years, and this has happened 4 or 5 times already. No one listens. And I think everyone's feeling the pain now, and I think it's a good thing. As a broader community, we're learning how not to get too ahead of our skis.
Now, Vinny, are you accumulating at these prices?
No, I don't think so. I think at these, so the current price is about roughly 7,000-ish. At that price, I think it's more of a hold if you're trying to figure out where the market's going to go. I think the key level again, 57.50. If it drops below that, it may create a cascade of people selling. But the market needs to stabilize and consolidate at some point before you get too bullish again.
So, Vinny, are you still bullish on the crypto market?
So the question gets answered based upon time frame, right? Am I bullish on it in the short run? No. Am I bullish on it in the long run? Absolutely. I think this is a fundamentally disruptive technology. It's going to change the world. Do we know which cryptos out there are going to change the world? No, we can guess, and that's what the speculative nature of crypto is. We're guessing that the top 10 coins are going to be where they are in a couple of years' time because they're really highly valued. If you look at the top 10 coins in crypto every year, they're never the same. I mean, with the exception of Bitcoin and Ether. So we are basically speculating. If you look at the hundreds of coins on the list, we're speculating on what these coins are. And there's obviously lots of scams. The SEC have arrested people already. There's a lot of scams out there running. A lot of these will be shut down. A lot of these will fail because of technical failure, lack of finding product market fit, etc. So I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, you can't be bearish on crypto in the long term. That's just silly. But in the short term, I think it makes sense that until there's provably a path forward for a lot of these cryptos, I think it's okay to be bearish.
Vinny, a report came out this week from ETH Zurich where they said that based on the Bitcoin network size, the market cap of Bitcoin is hugely overvalued and should be at somewhere around $22 to $44 billion. Do you think that's realistic?
Look, that is very possible. Based upon, the Bitcoin network effect has been broken down with the advent of the hard fork. So whereas before the hard fork with Bitcoin Cash, you had the entire community behind one coin, now you've got a split community. Now, what's the size of the split? Who knows? 10%, 15%, 20% of the community went one way or another. The network effect's broken down. Bitcoin is not focusing on being a payments network anymore. It's being a store of value. Bitcoin Cash is trying to do a payment network and getting all these retailers on board, and they're succeeding in that respect with the strategy they have. I think that the network effect for Bitcoin is what made Bitcoin what it is today. That network effect starts to break down, and we're already seeing transaction volumes dropping. That's a concern for Bitcoin. Now, Lightning Network is coming, etc. But these are new technologies that require adoption, etc., etc. These things take time. It doesn't happen overnight.
What about Bitcoin Cash? Are you still a bull on Bitcoin Cash?
I think that I'm bullish on Bitcoin Cash in terms of it being a better payment system. Now, would it be a better store of value? Well, in theory, if everyone's using this for payments, then it should. Definitively, I think it's a good experiment to see which one wins the respective markets. I think it's very important to understand that both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are running two experiments simultaneously. One is saying Bitcoin in its native state can scale with larger block sizes and still be censorship resistant and be good money with cheap transactions and available to everyone. And the other saying, no, Bitcoin can't scale. 1 megabyte blocks is the largest it should be for now, and we'll use layer 2 scaling solutions like Lightning to scale. And the answer, I don't know. Many people, this is a very, very controversial topic. My sense is that we could have probably gone to 2 to 4 megabyte blocks without losing too much in terms of centralization, and then worried about layer 2 scaling afterwards. I think my biggest criticism of Bitcoin has been that it's basically been premature scaling concerns, right? Everyone's worried about centralization, but it really only happens, I think, after about 4 megabyte blocks. And so we could have gone to that level and at least get to the point where the transactions are high enough to warrant a layer 2 solution. But be that as it may, the decision's been made to stick with 1 megabyte blocks and have Lightning as a scaling solution. And we're seeing transactions decline in Bitcoin because people don't want to move to they don't want to use Bitcoin for transactions, and we see altcoins out there taking up some of the transaction volume, and Bitcoin Cash is trying to do that as well. I think I'm still bullish on the fact that Bitcoin is the way to go for crypto in terms of store of value and payments. Which one plays out, I'm not sure. And I think that the sensible idea, like I've got Bitcoins from 2013 which haven't been moved, and therefore they have both Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin and all the other forks attached to those keys. So it doesn't matter which one wins because ultimately you have both. The problem with people buying today is they're buying one and not the other. So if you're an early Bitcoin person, you have all the forks of Bitcoin, and whichever wins, you have that coin. And people buying today are buying one or the other. So I think it would be silly to buy just Bitcoin Cash and not have Bitcoin. It would be silly to buy Bitcoin, not Bitcoin Cash. So I think you need to own both, probably in a 1-to-1 ratio as well.
Now, speaking of Bitcoin Cash, Roger, I'm coming to you. Roger, have you been following the price?
To be honest, I haven't checked the price a single time today. I'm not worried about it. I'm in this for the long term. But I do remember back when I first got involved in Bitcoin, when Bitcoin hit $1 for the first time, and all these people on the internet were saying, oh, this is a bubble. There's no way Bitcoin could ever be worth a whole dollar. This is crazy. And then they made the exact same arguments when Bitcoin hit $10 for the first time, and when it hit $100 for the first time, and when it hit $1,000 for the first time. So I don't even pay any attention. I'm focused on making Bitcoin as useful as I possibly can in commerce for the world.
Roger, are you saying that the price and the technology are not correlated at all?
I think a lot of the price movement today is just people speculating on the future potential use case of Bitcoin. So for me, I'm worried about the long-term impacts of digital currencies on the world. So I want to build them into the absolute most useful form of money the world has ever seen. And in the long run, if we're successful in that, the price will go sky high. But from day to day, I don't worry about it at all.
Roger, the market has gone from $850 billion to $250 billion. And it seems that the man in the street who invested in crypto and took a chance got burnt. And they're probably not going to be rushing back into crypto anytime soon. What do you believe will bring the new capital inflows into crypto?
The man in the street has done amazing investing in cryptocurrencies that they've held for more than a year. It's only people that have been holding for a couple of months that are down, but this isn't Rome wasn't built in a day, and cryptocurrencies aren't going to change the world in a day either. It's a long-term project, and we should keep our eye on the final goal, which is bringing more economic freedom to everybody in the world.
Now, speaking of economic freedom to anyone in the world, how are you guys progressing at Bitcoin Cash when it comes to giving the man in the street economic freedom?
Yeah, fantastically well. Bitcoin Cash works just like cash. I can't count how many Bitcoin Cash wallets I set up here in Korea this week, and I gave everybody a bit of Bitcoin Cash, and it cost about a seventh of a penny in network fees to send in each person the Bitcoin Cash. And all these Koreans are like, wow, this is great. And they're excited to use it. We actually just launched a faucet on Bitcoin.com. If you go to free.bitcoin.com, anyone, anywhere in the world can receive 10 cents worth of Bitcoin Cash for free, just like that. That's how I got my first Bitcoin ever, was on a Bitcoin faucet run by Gavin Andresen. Now the same thing is back with Bitcoin Cash. It no longer exists on Bitcoin Core.
Roger, a lot of critics say that now that the Lightning Network is being implemented, Bitcoin Cash has become obsolete.
So it's absolutely nonsense that the Lightning Network is up and running. So I was just on a panel here in South Korea, and there was a proponent of the Lightning Network on stage with me, and I asked him, where can I make a Lightning Network transaction? He could name 2 websites in the entire world that can allow you to buy things with a Lightning Network. And he said that there's a third one coming soon that's going to be selling hats. Well, there's hundreds of thousands of websites right now today that accept Bitcoin Cash transactions right now today. So, and if and when Lightning Network becomes something that's usable and easy to use, easy enough for the normal people to use, it'll work better, faster, cheaper, and more reliably on top of Bitcoin Cash than it will on top of Bitcoin Core anyhow. So at this point, Bitcoin Core doesn't really have anything going for it at all, other than the market share that it has and the mind share that it has. But that's quickly being eroded. And we're seeing that by the fact that companies like Microsoft and Reddit and others have stopped accepting Bitcoin Core as payments, yet we have hundreds of thousands of merchants all over the world that have started accepting Bitcoin Cash. So Bitcoin Core is having negative merchant adoption while Bitcoin Cash is being adopted by merchants all over the world. That's a really bullish sign for Bitcoin Cash.
Roger, I want to move away from Bitcoin Cash because we'll be here all day, and I want to go back to the market. Are you as bullish now as you've ever been on crypto?
And for cryptocurrencies in general, I think there's even more reason to be bullish than ever before, because there's more awareness, there's more businesses, there's more capital, more stuff is happening in the cryptocurrency ecosystem than ever before. So we should be more bullish about it than ever before. The hard part now is picking which ones are going to be the ones that have the most market adoption.
So Roger, do you believe we've seen the bottom, or is there more carnage to come?
I'm always so optimistic about cryptocurrencies in general that I can never imagine why anybody would ever sell them ever. But I remember when Bitcoin hit $32 for the first time, and then it started to have a correction and the price went down. And so I bought more, and the price hit $25 and I bought more, and the price hit $20 and I bought more, and the price hit $15 and I bought more, and then it hit $13 and I bought more. And I was all out of fiat at that point. And I thought there's no way the price could ever go down more. But it went all the way down to like $2 and something cents. And I wish that I had waited even longer to buy back in. So it's really, really hard to time the market. I can't imagine why it would go down more, but every time in the past when I couldn't imagine why it would go down more, it went down significantly more. So it might go down significantly more from where it is today. But again, this is a long-term plan.
Are you advising that investors adopt the same approach as you did and keep accumulating on the way down?
So we're not guaranteed that cryptocurrencies are going to go up in value over time, but we are guaranteed that the US dollar is going to lose value over time. So I think it would be wise to at least be exposed to cryptocurrencies in some way.
So that was Roger, and he just got off the stage at The Economy in Korea. Did you watch the footage between him and Samson Mao?
I watched part of the panel. It got to a point where it was pretty heated.
Yeah. Did you watch Vitalik afterwards take on Dr. Craig Wright?
Yeah, Vitalik and Joseph Poon, and I think they both, they said what a lot of people like myself have been saying for a long time, and it's become more apparent and more clear as time goes on.
What is that?
That Craig Wright is definitely not Satoshi, despite his claims to the contrary.
Now, we know Craig Wright is not Satoshi. If you don't know that and you've been living in La La Land, But what does that mean for Bitcoin Cash? Are you a Bitcoin Cash fan? Do you believe that Lightning has made Bitcoin Cash obsolete?
Okay, so just to sort of reiterate my position, I think that Bitcoin Cash is great as an outlet for people who believe that large blocks are the way forward. So there's this vehicle that they can use to live out their scaling dreams. That said, I don't think that sort of ever-growing blocks or ever-increasing block sizes is the way to scale Bitcoin. I'm a much bigger believer in Lightning and sidechains and similar mechanisms as a way to scale Bitcoin efficiently and to significantly larger scale than Bitcoin Cash ever can achieve.
Now, what about putting a Lightning network over an 8 meg block? I mean, that is a great option. You've got the benefit of bigger blocks, and then you've got the Lightning network, which can scale it even more.
Absolutely. And I've heard, I have yet to sort of see a lot of evidence of this, but there have been some people in the Bitcoin Cash community that have said, why don't we implement Lightning? It's not a big deal to add Lightning support to Bitcoin Cash. And like you said, there's the benefit of the larger blocks, which means that Lightning can scale up a lot faster. And ultimately, with Lightning, you get the interconnectedness between networks. So you can then do atomic swaps between Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Decred, and so on.
Is Lightning something that Monero may consider?
Definitely. So with Monero, we have immense scaling challenges, and we're pretty much taking a look at every scaling option that we can. We've implemented bulletproofs as a way to reduce our transaction sizes on chain. But on a sort of much grander scale, we need to implement Lightning, if not for the atomic swaps, then for the scalability.
Now, Roger and Vinny are both very bullish about crypto long term. Are you as bullish about crypto long term as they are?
I am a bit of a pragmatist, so I believe in averaging in if you're going to buy into anything, and I also believe that you should have a selling plan. So my selling plan has been that every time the price doubles from the last point where I sold at, I sell 5%. And I've stuck to that selling plan even when I've gone, ooh, I don't feel like selling, because then at least I know that I've taken profit, and if the crypto market goes to zero tomorrow, not a big deal.
But you don't believe that the price is going to go to zero. And there's someone else who doesn't believe the price is going to go to zero, and that's John McAfee. And the reason why he doesn't believe that the price is going to go to zero is because he says that the price will go to $1 million by 2020. And if it doesn't, then we all know what he's going to do. John, you got a big bet on the line here. Are you panicking?
No, of course not. Why should I be panicking?
John, the Bitcoin price is down 70% from its all-time high. There's bad news everywhere. The volumes are low. There are practically no capital inflows into this market. There are reports that say that the Bitcoin network should be valued at $22 to $44 billion. Now, you have one of your heads on the line. Surely you should be panicking.
Well, I mean, this dip has happened in a very short period of time. I mean, we are dealing with a long-term phenomenon. If you look at Bitcoin's history, there have been a number of these panics where Bitcoin is dead, Bitcoin is disappearing, Bitcoin has burst. We're talking about a 3-month period. Please God, we are looking at a phenomenon which will continue for decades. So why should I panic? I'm a long-term, my brain looks at things in the long term. And in the long term, I don't see a serious problem. I don't see any problem.
So John, does that mean that you're still bullish and that you're not reducing your valuation?
No, I have it at $1 million by December of 2020. I cannot possibly lose that bet. Statistically, mathematically, in every way you want to look at it, it has to be $1 million by the end of 2020. And I don't care if it goes to 50 cents tomorrow. It's another short-term issue. Why should I care? Let's look at Bitcoin once a year and see what happens. It is consistently, year over year, grown and will continue to do so.
So John, if you're this positive at these levels, is this a good buying opportunity?
Any time is a good buying opportunity for Bitcoin. I mean, just pick a random day or a random price. If you're a long-term investor, it's going to increase dramatically. So yeah, anytime is a good time. Now it's a good time. Tomorrow would be a good time. When it hits $20,000, it'll be a good time. It's always a good time to buy Bitcoin.
John, why are you so confident that Bitcoin will be at $1 million by 2020?
I'm a mathematician and a statistician. If you simply look at the history of Bitcoin, its growth, its adoption by users, and not just users of Bitcoin, but also people who accept Bitcoin payments. Started out on the dark web, and now it's moved to all kinds of businesses in the real world. How can this massive growth, which is continuing in spite of the price of Bitcoin declining, the growth of Bitcoin in terms of its adoption and use is continuing to grow? So how can I not be bullish?
So are you saying that the price and the technology are moving against each other, and that actually there's an inverse correlation between the price and the technology?
No, there's no correlation whatsoever. It simply has to do with two things: governments and banks. Banks and governments will do everything within their power to try to trash Bitcoin, to try to kill it if possible. Well, it can't be killed. Certainly, you can trash it in the market for a while, but it will simply bounce back. And it will bounce back with a viciousness that you can't imagine. So who cares? Jamie Dimon, the chairman of JP Morgan, comes out and says Bitcoin is a fraud. Well, Bitcoin lost 50% of its value in a matter of days because of that. Didn't make any difference. It bounced back. It will always bounce back. Trash it as much as you like.
Now, John, let's move the conversation away from Bitcoin and more towards the broader crypto market. We were at a market capitalization of $850 billion. We're down to about $250 billion. Is there a problem in this market?
None whatsoever. Well, I mean, yes, there is. But the problem has nothing to do with the price of cryptocurrencies. The problem has to do with new currencies coming online that basically have no purpose. People are using ICOs as a means to make a fortune and to deliver a pitiful product, which is a coin. However, within those ICOs are massive gems that people should be glad that were created and succored and comforted and made real. So that's the problem. The price is not the problem, but people keep harping on, oh my God, the market's lost $600 billion. Who cares? Please God, we're talking about a few months. It astonishes me that people even notice it. It astonishes me. Why? You're short-term investors. People go, I want to make money today. Well, I'm sorry. You only attain mediocrity by being a day trader. If you want to get rich, you have to look at the long term. So I don't even look at I have no clue what the value of any of my holdings are because I looked a few months ago. Why should I look again? It's stupid.
So, John, you sound extremely bullish. Do you believe that we'll see a $1 trillion market cap by the end of this year?
Of course. Yes. I mean, it was at what? 800 billion, right? Well, of course we're going to see $1 trillion by the end of this year. Please God, use our heads, people. Look to the long term. Forget the short term nonsense. It's annoying. I mean, it's time wasting. And if you're really concerned, then you're a short term trader, and my heart goes out to you. I'm sorry, you'll never get rich doing that.
John, we've had very low capital inflows into the market. What's going to bring in the new money that's actually required to drive this market to the $1 trillion market cap?
I think major investors, banks, for example, insurance company. An article came out today. You need to look at my Twitter account and read this article. I can't even remember the name or who wrote it, but it's cited statistics that the Japanese and other countries are looking at major purchases of Bitcoin. They're not stupid. Banks aren't stupid. They're smart people, and money is their business. And they see Bitcoin down at $300 or $3,000, Ethereum down at $300. They're not stupid people. They go, we're going to make a fortune. We're going to buy big. And you'll see investments in the billions of dollars. I promise you, this is where it's coming from. The smart people with smart money.
So, John, is $250 billion the bottom of this market?
I have no clue. You're talking about short-term events. You cannot possibly predict a short-term event. You can easily predict a long-term event. I have no clue whether we're at the bottom. I don't know if the bottom is going to be 50 cents. I don't care. I really don't care. I care about, let's check the price this time next year. It'll be well over $1 trillion, and I'll be happy to come on your show again.
So that's John McAfee, and he's bullish as usual. Do you think he's unnecessarily bullish, or he's over-optimistic?
I tend to be very pragmatic. I think that a jump from where we are now to $1 million in 2020, that's a pretty big jump. You have to be extremely optimistic to believe that possible.
But he claims that he can't lose this bet because he's worked this thing out mathematically. He says there's a mathematical formula which is based on the cost of mining all the Bitcoin, and that's how he gets to his number. And I mean, he's not a stupid guy.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Look, I've got mad respect for John and for the things that he's done in the past. I think that we're all out of our depth in this market right now. I spoke to a trader, an experienced Forex trader the other day, and I said to him, the crypto market's mad. We don't know which way it's going. And he said to me, no, we don't understand the market. That's all. And I think that we're all making guesses. John's making guesses, I'm making guesses, everyone's making guesses, but ultimately we don't understand all the market forces.
But there's one guy that claims he doesn't make guesses, and that's Tone Vays. Now, Tone Vays plots these charts, and he has this Bitcoin show, which he does daily, and on his show, he plots a chart. Now, we had a show on Crypto Trader where we had 5 of the best chartists on Twitter, and we asked them all to give us their predictions. All of them were wrong, except Tone Vays. What he said that if Bitcoin doesn't break $8,500 with volume, then we're going to carry on coming down. And now he's calling Bitcoin down to $1,300. Tone, are you panicking at these points?
No, I am not panicking, but at the moment, I still see lower prices in the intermediate term. Right now, based on my charts, I am looking for a 1 to 4 day rebound that started yesterday. And I kind of called that as well because I'm a big fan of the sequential system known as the TD sequential. So I'm a big follower of that. And on that system, the candle that we had a couple of days ago that made the low signified that the downtrend is temporarily exhausted. That usually tends to lead to a 1 to 4 day reversal and then usually a continuation of the downtrend. Now, these 1 to 4 day reversals could lead to significant reversals back to the upside, and that is something we need to reevaluate a couple of days from now. But at the moment, I am looking for a rebound back to that $7,800 area where we dropped from very hard, and then probably continuation of the downside. But in a couple of days, I will reevaluate.
So, Tone, is this what they call the dead cat bounce?
I believe that it could be. You can't really know for sure until after it reverses back to the downside and starts approaching the lows. Like I always tell people, you don't know. Momentum likes to stay with momentum. So if right now we start to rebound and we go all the way back to $12,000, $13,000, I will be looking for Bitcoin to go to 25K, 30K, 40K. Like crossing that $12,000 number would be huge for the next year or two. But on the flip side, if we reverse from the $7,800 area like I expect and go back to the vicinity of $6,500, I am now expecting significantly lower prices, probably down to $5,000 or lower. So I am more of a momentum trader, trying to predict the timing of the dip, like the shirt that I'm wearing, for the long term is a very dangerous trade.
Tone, what do you think is causing this downward pressure?
I honestly think that anytime the moment Bitcoin started trading above 7,500, it started to make me nervous because I didn't feel that the ecosystem environment justified that. And what happens is the higher you go above what should be normal, the more the pain on the way down when people realize it. I don't believe in conspiracies. I don't believe in manipulation of this Bitcoin market. I believe there are traders that can take advantage on a short-term basis, but I don't believe in any kind of long-term manipulation. So to me, it's just, people, no one wants to buy right now. I remember when Bitcoin was crossing 10,000 and everyone was saying, if only it was 5,000, if only it was 6,000, I'd sell everything and buy it. Now that we're in that vicinity, everyone is scared. And that's the reality of the situation. Markets top because no one wants to pay those prices. And then once it starts going down, most people are just scared until eventually it rebounds. I don't see any problem here. Again, in 2014, we fell from $1,200 all the way to $150. This may not be any different. So if we rebound anywhere in the vicinity of 2000, it's just a repeat of 2014. I'm still very bullish Bitcoin for the long term. Lightning and other advancements are happening even faster than I expected. But it's just not as popular as people thought. I'm sorry. It's the price got out of control. This is markets, and we will go back up eventually. I'm not scared.
Tone, I know it was a good idea to get you and Roger on the same program. Now, earlier, Roger said that the Lightning Network wasn't rolled out, and I saw you smiling in the background. Is he right?
The thing is, I haven't really looked into Lightning transactions yet because I don't have a need for Lightning transactions yet. Lightning transactions are more for micropayments and lowering the price of a Bitcoin transaction. But right now, the Bitcoin mempool is pretty empty. There aren't that many Bitcoin transactions going around. So I'm paying 1 Satoshi per byte to send my Bitcoin on the main chain. I don't really have a need to use Lightning yet. Lightning is for the future when everyone is using Bitcoin, when we need cheap transactions, when we need fast transactions. But right now, we're doing that just fine on the main chain.
Tone, some of our viewers bought Bitcoin at $10,000, $15,000, and maybe even $20,000. Are you still bullish on Bitcoin?
I'm bullish on the underlying technology, but this underlying technology could get a little bit out of hand with the fear of missing out, the FOMO, as the young generation likes to call it. And for someone that bought at $15,000, the first thing I would tell them is, why did you buy it? Did you believe in the underlying technology, or were you just speculating? If the answer is, I believe in the underlying technology, then I would tell them, then stop looking at the price of Bitcoin and wait a couple of years. If they say, well, I bought it because the price was going up, I would tell them, well, A, welcome to Bitcoin, and B, welcome to trading. And if you panic now and sell, you will learn why the average person is not a very good trader.
Tone, would you be buying at these levels?
I would be, slowly, right? Because one of the things that I regretted was quitting my job a little too early and joining the space. I quit my job in early 2015 when Bitcoin was stuck in this $200 to $300 level. And I quit my Wall Street job, so I was making over $100,000 a year. And one of the things I regretted, all I had to do was just be a bad employee for an additional 6 months and just convert all of those paychecks into Bitcoin and not quit that early. I would have been in such better position with significantly more Bitcoin. So yeah, if you believe in the underlying technology and people ask me, when is a good time to buy Bitcoin? My answer is always, it was yesterday.
So that's Tone Vays, and he uses those magic charts. What do you think of his call that we may be going down to $1,300?
Yeah, he might not be wrong. Again, being pragmatic, I think that we have to expect that eventuality, that it could very well go down there. I mean, previous dips, like from $200 down to $20, it went all the way down to that all-time high and then recovered. Thankfully, the recovery, historically speaking, has been relatively quick. To some sort of magical point above the previous all-time high. But yeah, we might be in for quite a hard drop.
But work with me here. The total market capitalization of the entire crypto market today is $250 billion. That means that we are valuing the total effect of the blockchain as it currently stands and all the projects on the blockchain at a future value of $250 billion. Surely it can't go down to $50 billion.
The problem is every time we say, surely that'll never happen, we end up getting proven wrong. So I think it's, at this point in time, it's anyone's guess. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a continual decline down to as low as $2,000 or $1,500 or $1,300.
Now, the next big wave everyone's talking about is securities tokens. Are you a believer that securities tokens are going to be the next big flow into the blockchain?
I think security tokens are still legally murky right now. The SEC does not seem to like them. I like the fact that securities tokens provide entrepreneurs with, not really entrepreneurs, but more VCs and investors with some sort of early exit strategy if they think that that's wise. But I think that securities tokens will need to go through a lot of rigor and a lot of legal footprinting and a lot of case law before they really get to a point where they're widely in use.
Now, our next guest is the guy that loves securities tokens. He has over 109,000 followers on Twitter, and he's the guy that keeps screaming securities tokens. Anthony Pompliano, you're making big waves in the media these days. Your company, Full Tilt Capital, was recently purchased by Morgan Creek. Tell us a little bit about the transaction.
Absolutely. Morgan Creek is a multi-billion-dollar asset manager. They've built an entire business around being a firewall between institutional capital and new emerging technologies and markets. And so they've done this across a number of different verticals previously. And Mark Yusko and the team over there are incredibly excited about blockchain technology. And they came to us, and we're excited to partner with them so that the two of us can together go and tackle this, new emerging technologies.
And what's the mandate of the new company?
Yeah, so look, we're incredibly excited about blockchain technology specifically, and what ends up being called tokenized securities, right? And so what we're planning to do here is we're going to go explore the ability for us to deploy capital to buy equity in companies and real estate where the financial transaction is done over the blockchain. And so we think it's a more efficient transaction. And we think that'll give us access to the cheapest capital of the market, which brings a whole host of advantages when you sit in the investor seat.
And give us an example of why you're so excited about this technology.
Yeah, so I'll give you a real world example, right? So just this week, there was a Chinese conglomerate that exported a bunch of gasoline to Singapore. And they did the entire transaction on the blockchain, right? So it's the first full commodity transaction on the blockchain. And the Chinese conglomerate estimates that they saved about 20 to 30% of the transaction cost by doing it over the blockchain versus their traditional process. And so we think the same thing is true not only in commodity transactions, but in financial transactions as well. And so whether we're buying equity in companies, if we're buying real estate, et cetera, not only is the transaction itself more efficient, but when we give money to these entities, what we're receiving in exchange is not an analog share. It's not a paper share. It's not an electronic share that you would see like in the stock market. We're receiving a token, right? A digital share. And so that digital share brings a whole host of advantages as well that has us really excited about the tokenized security space.
And let's move back to our topic here tonight. Are you panicking about the Bitcoin price?
Not at all. I think that Bitcoin's on sale, right? I don't think anyone should really worry about this. If you've got a long enough time horizon, I think that we're just getting started, and this shouldn't faze anybody.
Bitcoin is indeed a sale, and it's been a hell of a sale. Do you think that we've seen the end of this carnage?
I have no clue, right? I don't try to time the markets. I think that over time, I always tell people when they start telling me about how far we've dropped from the top, right? I say from January 2017, we're still up 7x, right? And so, it just depends on what your kind of your risk profile is and timeline is. But overall, anyone who wants to bet against Bitcoin, I tell them one thing. I say, short it then, right? Because I'm not shorting it. I'm actually buying more, and we're going to see where this thing goes.
And are you bullish on Bitcoin?
I've never felt stronger that Bitcoin is going to end up being an incredibly valuable store of value.
So, Ant, would you be buying at these levels?
I tell folks that I am always in accumulation mode. I think that Bitcoin is going to be more valuable than it is today. And as long as you feel that, you should always be trying to accumulate more and more of it.
And tell me why you're so positive. We have viewers that bought in at $20,000, at $15,000, and they're not sounding that positive. Why are you so positive?
Yeah, look, I think that there's two things, right? One is Bitcoin's anti-fragile, right? So every single thing that could possibly go wrong has in the past, from regulation to security to just general negative sentiment, and it's persisted, right? And I think that it will continue to do that over a long period of time. And then the second is I just look at kind of the anecdotal trends, right? So I previously said that I don't know anyone under the age of 35 that's buying gold. Right. And so if you just look at what people are actually purchasing today and where they put their belief in terms of that store of value, I think it's Bitcoin. right? And so if that's happening today, that's going to pay off for decades to come. And so I think that we're just seeing the beginning of this. And if you bought in at a higher level, right, I tell folks this isn't about, you're not a day trader, right? If you're making an investment, this is a long-term investment that you should really look at that and try to stay as unemotional as possible. And if you take that perspective, then I think that you're going to be absolutely fine.
And what's your message for our viewers that bought at $20,000?
Take a deep breath, walk away from the computer, and you breathe. You're going to be just fine.
And I think the trillion-dollar question is whether you believe we'll see a market cap of over $850 billion this year.
I do. I'm on record as saying that Bitcoin's got a chance of going to 50,000 by December 2018, so we'll see if I'm right or wrong.
And you still maintain that price point?
I can't go back on my word now.
That's Ant, and that's spoken like a true military man. Now, Ricardo, we've heard a lot of bulls, we've heard some bearish opinions. What are your final takeouts today?
I think, if I had to give anyone any advice, it's firstly hodl, like really don't panic. This is a long-term game. John McAfee was 100% right on that. And secondly, when it comes to throwing money at something like this, instead of taking a large chunk of your net worth and trying to invest it in crypto and then being emotionally attached to it and panicking, what if you just took a little bit every month, a small amount of money that you can afford to lose, and you just bought crypto every month? That way, you're averaging in, you don't care about the price going up or down, you don't care about buying opportunities, and then you can have a selling plan attached to that.
Now, let me ask you a question. A lot of people bought coins at the top of the cycle, and they're still holding them. So they're holding a combination of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a whole lot of other coins. If you were them today, would you be restructuring your portfolio, or would you be waiting for some kind of spike?
So we're in this really weird space where, for some odd reason, like cryptocurrencies from 2013 and 2014 have gone through pumps. And so previously I would have said restructure your portfolio, realize the losses, and hope to regain them somewhere else. But quite frankly, maybe it's not a bad idea to just hold on to them. I mean, as long as it's not a massive amount of money, then just cut your losses. But if it's a small amount of money, maybe just hold on to it and wait for the next wave and hope that you're able to sell either at break even or at a profit.
That's Ricardo Spagni. Now, we've had an amazing panel of guests, and they've all given you the same message. I think the first message is hodl. The second message is this is not the end of crypto. Crypto will rise, the blockchain will continue to make a difference, and if you've been here for a while, you'll realize that these dips are natural. Until next week, trade well, my friends.
Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.